Welcome to Explain It Like I'm 5, how to access Business Central web services and APIs with Oauth authentication. Hey, I'm Eric, and we are living in wonderful times, so there's always new things to learn. And one of the things that we now have to make sure that we know, and we know how to use, is something called Oauth, which is a way to, log in to web service. So if we want to access Business Central web services, APIs, whatever you want to call it, you can no longer just use basic authentication, username and a web service key, and then you're done. You have to use Oauth. And quite often Oauth gets overcomplicated because there are so many options. There's so many combination of things you can do that what I want to do in this video is explain one way through this. There's many other ways, but this is the way that I use for nearly everything. So it's not a very obscure way. This is down the middle of the road. How to access Business Central. And first, we need to think about what is Business Central. And I came up with a way to explain this. Let me know in the comments below if this makes any sense. Otherwise, I'll do a second video if this makes no sense. But I think it does. So think about Business Central as a roller coaster, because it is, right? But this roller coaster, in order for you to ride the roller coaster, you have to pay. You have to show that you are allowed to board the roller coaster. And you show that by, at the gate of the roller coaster, you put in a token and then you can go through the gate. And this is great. So in order for us to ride the roller coaster, we need a token. And we put the token in the machine and all is good. But the problem here is that the roller coaster is actually sitting, let me make this one way bigger. The roller coaster is sitting inside the theme park. And in order to even get to the roller coaster, you need to enter the theme park. And there is, in this particular theme park here, pictured here, there's friendly people at the gate, and you're greeted with a smile. And if you have a ticket, you can come in. If you don't have a ticket, you need to buy a ticket, and so on. And when you're in the theme park, in this case, you need to also, you need to get a token. Otherwise, you cannot. Well, let me move this up a bit. If you don't get the token, then there's no way that you can get into the roller coaster. And this is Business Central. So, it's sitting inside Microsoft. It's in the Microsoft cloud. So in order for you to even get to the gate of Business Central, you have to log into Microsoft. When you're logging into Microsoft, you will get a token. So this is one step more friendly than the average theme park, because in this case, at least, we're a theme park where you have to pay for the rides. So when you pass the gate of the theme park, you will get a token. So with this concept in mind, let's see if we can make this work. So the first thing we need to do, remember, the very first thing we need to do is that we need to get through the gate of the theme park. There's no way that we can get to the roller coaster if we don't pass the gate of the theme park. And in order to enter the gate, we need a way to identify ourselves. And we use something called an app registration. So in order to obtain the ticket, the app registration, you need to go to portal.azure.com and you need to search for app registration. And before I fill this out, I want to take a slight detour. So let's go back into Business Central. We haven't been there. So let's go into Business Central and look at users just for a second, because with web services, we logged in. Well, somebody in accounting, we would use their account to log in as web services. And that would be, in this case, Eric from accounting. That would be the user we will just use for web services. That's not what we do anymore. Now we have a secondary set of users. And you can find them by searching inside your Business Central for Azure Active Directory applications. So think of the application as a non-human user, so a machine user. In this case, it has to be some other piece of software somewhere, aka an application that is logging into your Business Central to get a web service. So in here, we define these application users. And you can see I already have a few here, but let's go back to Azure, because what we have here are actually these application users we have here are the same as app registrations. So I will create a new app registration, an application user, and I could call it something. This doesn't really matter, so we can call this for theme park. Why not? And we say that the only one who can use this application, are accounts that are within my tenant. And that really doesn't matter in this case where I'm showing this, but we're just going to show that this one cannot be used by outsiders. I will explain that just in a second. I'll register this. So now I have a theme park, and what I have already now is that I have a application ID. So this is our user ID. So we're going to take this one, copy to the clipboard, go back into Business Central and say we want to create a new user in here, because we want to give this application access to Business Central. So I will paste that thing in, and we'll call it theme park again, and I will enable it. And then it says a username theme park will be created. You want to continue? Sure. So now we get a pseudo user. So even though if we go into users here, we still don't have Eric. But if we go into something like user setup, and we want to do a lookup, we don't really see it, but I could say theme park here. I think I think there's a bug in Business Central because we used to be able to see it. I could add theme park and it's a known user. So we have a user. We need to give them normal Business Central. So this application user, we need to give it normal Business Central access. It does not require a license. This is an interesting part. So there's no license associated with this. I'll give it premium access to all companies, and then just for hell of it, I'm gonna give it super data. You cannot give an application the real super, but you can give it super data at least. So in that case, we can always experiment. Of course, you should only give this one access to what it needs and nothing else. Okay, so now we have the user in here, theme park, but we're not quite done back in Azure. So again, this is currently what we're doing here. So we're doing two things, and again, we are at the gate of the theme park. We're here. So we need to walk from here and be able to walk inside the promised land in here. And we can only do that if we have a valid errand. Why do we need to go into the theme park? So we do that in API permission. So think about this, that what is it that you should be allowed to do in the theme park? The reason we will let you in. So we go to this one. Come on, there we go. And we can see, well, we kind of can get into the theme park just to have, and with the only thing we can do in the theme park is look in the mirror and see, hey, who am I? So that's kind of boring. So what we can do is that we can give you permission to go somewhere else in the theme park. And the theme park is big, but we will select Business Central. And now going back to the thing we had where who is allowed to use this ticket, this app registration. So we have two options. We can be a delegate permission, meaning that we have to use this during a login process where a user and a user logs in and authenticates with passwords and all that. We're not using that. So because it's not a real user, it's an application user. So we will never use delegate permission here. We will use application permissions because we are logging in as an application. We're not logging in as a user. And this one will tell us that we have three options here. So what kind of permissions? And this is the weird thing, that we just gave this user permissions to Business Central, but this is on the theme park level. So this is not on the roller coaster. So we gave roller coaster permissions. So within the roller coaster, what can you do on the roller coaster? Well, we could do all sorts of things, but do we even here, this is on the theme park level, do we even allow this user to figure out if you're allowed to do something with the roller coaster? And this is what will give you a token. So in this case, we want to have read, write, all. So we want to do operations. We don't want to play with automation, so we just want to use API read, write, all. Meaning that, so we walk up to this one and says, hey, and then there's a password that I'll show in a second. We show that this is the app we want to enter the theme park with, and what we want to do is we want to go to the roller coaster. So that's what we're telling here. Now, as depending on whom I am, and I might be somebody who's not really an admin. So in order for the theme park to say that this is a valid ticket to get into the theme park, somebody needs to grant admin consent, saying, okay, this ticket is good. So now, and we can't see this, that's behind my head. I can remove my head for a second here. Perhaps I can remove my head. Let's see if I can. There, so it's granted for, you see the status here, admin consent, oops, no, here. Admin consent is granted for Hogart. I'll see if I can find my head again. There I am, excellent. Oops, and then I clicked on something. So now this is granted full access to websites API. So at this point, we're only missing one thing to be able to pass the gate. We have a ticket. We have a valid errand inside the theme park, but we gotta verify that not just anybody's showing up with this ticket. So what we want to do is that we want to add a password, so to speak. And I'm going to click for certificates and secrets. So a password is a secret, so we will create a secret. And then you need to tell how long is this secret valid. I'll just go with 3 months in this case. So we create that, and we got it here. So again, behind my head, let me actually just see if I can see. There's a value and an ID. So in this case, it's not the ID, it's not the GUID, it's actually the value we want. So I copy that, and then I actually leave on this. So now we have this secret, so TVN8Q. So the friendly guard at the gate before you enter the theme park will ask you for the password, because you have told you're just an application, you're not a real user, you're an application. So in order to validate that you are this application you think you are, you need to tell the friendly guard at the gate what is your password. And then you give him the password, and in exchange he will hand you a token. Here is 1 token for the roller coaster. And actually he will do that even more. He will give you a token more and say, hey, and here is a other token. You can use this token if the first token I gave you expires. Then you can use the second token to get a new one from the, from a machine or something like that. So with that token in hand, you are now ready to go over to the roller coaster, put in the token, and ride the roller coaster. So let's see how that works in code. So I have here a piece of C# code that we wrote together in a video a while back, a couple of months back, so you can find that. But I'll just walk through what's actually happening here. So the first thing, that since we walk up to the gate, we need to tell our secret. So I have that in the clipboard. I'll go back here, overview, and get this ID again, the A657, which was also the one we put in here, A657. So I will put this in here. And because the guard at the gate doesn't know who you are, he gets many visitors, he also needs to know what company you're from. So you also need to tell him your tenant ID from your Business Central. So this is the one we have, sitting up here. Or if you want it elsewhere, you can go to help and support, and it's also sitting here. So let's put a breakpoint somewhere at the beginning, and then let's try to run this program so we can walk through. And I'll put this up here, and then I think it will go away. That's okay. So we have our ticket, our application registration. We have our secret. We know where we're from. So the first thing we'll do is that we will build a request to a server called login.microsoftonline.com. So that's the gate of the theme park. Login.microsoftonline.com. We will tell what tenant we're from, and what we're telling here. See, we're building a request, and then we're telling him our client ID and client secret. We have talked about them a lot. We're telling him what should he give us. So there's actually a ton of stuff we can ask him or her, could be her, at the gate, ask her to give us. But in this case, we want something called client credentials, because we want a token that works in the roller coaster. And we also ask him to say, hey, it's the roller coaster we want. We want a access token, and we want it for the roller coaster. And here's our ID, and here's our secret. So we go through this, and we tell that this is formatted like this, and then we send it to the gate. And in this case, the gate accepted this. So we got a result. And we got a result that says, hey, he had issued a token, a bearer token, which is exactly the type of token we need to put into this guy. We need a bearer token to put into this guy. So we got that. This one expires in an hour. And here is the token. So you see this long thing here, that is the token. In this case, he did not give us a refresh token. So if we ever want another token after this hour, we need to ask him again. The same question, please give me a new token. Oops. So that is very good. So now we grab the token here. So now we have the token in this variable called bearer token, and we are now ready to talk to Business Central. So up until this point, we haven't even touched Business Central. The only thing we have interacted with is the gate. So now we're inside the theme park. We're walking in the theme park. We have our token in hand. We walk up to the roller coaster and says api.businesscentraldynamics.com, and in this case, I think I'm gonna try to grab the chart of account thing. So I'm building a request to the chart of account, and I'm adding a header. So normally in the old times, you would add a basic authentication, and then we would do base 64 of a name and a password and with a colon in between. In this case, we're just passing this token. And then I'm going to do a get. This takes a second. We can look and see we got something. So if I do this and let it right to the screen and put this up here, we got chart of account all over the screen. There's lots of data, and we're done. So we'll exit out of this. I think I need to press enter here. So now I could, if I want to, because in this case Business Central is actually very nice. So even though you pass it a token, it will not keep the token. This is kind of like some of these, the New York subway, where the ticket comes out on the other end again, and you can use it for the next hour. That's how the access token works here. So we could make multiple calls if we want to. So if we change this program to just for fun, then we could go here and we'll just copy this code. Why not? And then say we'll keep the URL, we'll create a new client just for fun, and a new result. Oops, result 2, result 2, result 2. This failed. So if we run this again, let's just go quickly through this. So hooray, we got a new token. So we call once here, we get this, and we go down and do another thing, we call that. and we also got that. So we can use the token for up to an hour. The same token, all requests. And then we have to go through and ask the friendly guard at the gate to please issue us a new token we can use. So in here, if we don't want this application to work anymore, we can go in here and say, okay, I want to disable this app. So we do that in Business Central. So this is now disabled here. If I run the program again, we go through this, we get to the gate and says, hey, we need to use the roller coaster. Sure thing. We got a token. We have a token to the roller coaster, to Business Central. The gate has no idea that inside Business Central we have said that this application is no longer has access. So now that we walk up to Business Central, we put our token in the machine. We go, this is not a successful call. Let's see what we get on screen. In this case, we get unauthorized. So even though we logged in, we went through the gate, the theme park, and we got a token to Business Central, all is good. Then when we stepped up to the roller coaster, when we stepped up to Business Central, we could not log in. So the token that was issued and looked very good only allowed us to walk up and put it into machine, and then we'll see what happens. So there's this whole two-layer thing that I know is part of confusing this, but you keep control in Business Central for at the door, at the gate of Business Central. No matter what happens on over in the entire theme park. Same thing will of course happen if we went in here and says, okay, let's delete the app registration. So the user, I understand all the implication of deleting this thing. And while that delete, I want to go back into Business Central and say, hey, now I am enabling the theme park. You can also do the grant consent from in here. It's the exact same thing as whether we do it from here or we do it inside the Azure portal. It doesn't matter. Same thing. So now this one is enabled again, but since we removed the app registration, now we'll run the program. Maybe we'll run the program. Maybe we need to stop this. Come on. There we go. Now we run the program again. We pretend to have a ticket that works. We walk up to the gate. We did not get a successful status code. We simply got a bad request saying, hey, now at the gate saying that ticket is not valid. So it has nothing to do, even though it says inside Business Central, you totally come in and talk with us. You never get to the steps of the roller coaster because you are not allowed into the theme park in this case. I hope that made sense. Let me know in the comments below if there's any confusion other than why does he keep talking about theme parks and roller coasters when it has nothing to do with either. I just thought there was a good explanation on how stuff works. Anyway, shoot me down in the comments. I will read them, all of them, and if you want something else, then this video has been lined up by the YouTube algorithm to help you. See if I can even point today. Wow, this is really, really bad. And this is a good one. See you there. Take care. Bye.